Hello everybody, my name is Cody bringing us yet another video, and in today's video we are continuing the Paladin subclasses for D&D 5e. Yesterday we had gone over all of the ones that are actually on this little list right here, except for Crown, which no longer exists. So we had gone over Redemption, Conquest, Vengeance, Devotion, Ancients, and Oathbreaker. If you want to know more about the actual subclasses and why I put them into, each of their respective spots, then watch yesterday's video. Today we're going to go over the ones that were added afterwards, or not exactly from one of the main books of the series, and it's actually from something from an outside source, such as Critical Role or Magic. Right off the bat, we're going to go over Critical Role's Oath of the Open Sea, Oath of Glory, Watchers, and I think it's just those, right? It'll be 1, 2, 3, I think. Unless there's another one that I'm forgetting. But these are, at the moment, what we're going to be going over. So, right off the bat, when you choose Oath of the Open Sea, your Oath spells would be Creator to Destroy Water, Expeditious Retreat, Augury and Misty Step, Call Lightning and Tidal Wave, Control Water and Freedom of Movement, and Commune with Nature and Maelstrom. So as spells for each respective level, Create a Destroy Water, extremely good, as this whole kind of subclass is very focused on if you're more of like a ocean based one and less of you probably aren't going to be all of this kind of has more of a feel of the ocean and pirate life and sailing. If you've seen the second season or the second campaign of Critical Role, then you'll know a lot of this kind of stuff right here, and it is actually all good. Misty Step is always good. Call Landing in, Tidal Wave, Control Water and Freedom of Movement, Maelstrom, all pretty good spells. It's just a lot of times you don't see a full 20 Paladin, so you might not see all of those, but still, every spell is actually fairly decent to get as kind of the shtick of the class. Your two channel divinities will be Marine Lair and Fury of the Tides. Marine Lair will be that as an action, you can channel the sea to create a thick cloud of fog that surrounds you and heavily obscures the area for 20 feet in all directions, following you as you move. You and all creatures within 5 feet of you instead treat this fog as lightly obscured. This fog lasts for 10 minutes, spreads around corners, and cannot be dispersed. So it is very helpful if you're trying to be a bit stealthier, as you kind of will have, something that can block out vision of people trying to see you. And this will also cause, every enemy who is firing at you at a range will be at disadvantage when trying to hit you, as you have any heavily obscured thing blocking their line of sight on you. So it's pretty good in a sense. Of course, there isn't saying anything that technically you would see out of this fog, other than the fact that it would be you and all creatures within 5 feet of you will be treating as lightly obscured, which means that you'll be able to see through it, just not as well as if it didn't exist, but, enemies outside of this range, or people outside of this range, will have an extremely hard time. You'll have a medium easy time seeing out of it. And then you'll also have Fury of the Tides. As a bonus action, you can channel the powerful might of the waves to bolster your attacks for 1 minute. Once per turn for the duration, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can choose to push the target 10 feet away from you. If the target is pushed into an obstacle or another creature, they take bludgeoning damage equal to your charisma modifier. So this is just a kind of helpful way to be a bit of crowd control, as you can start knocking people around. You can get them away from you and away from allies, potentially knock them off of an edge, push them into obstacles to cause even more damage upon them. So it actually is a very kind of helpful thing, as you won't always be getting the damage, but you'll always be able to knock people away. And it lasts for 1 minute, which is a pretty decent time, and you summon it as a bonus action, which means that you can use Fury of the Tides, and then immediately reap the benefits, as you can start attacking immediately after. Your 7th level ability is Aura of Liberation. You emanate an aura while you're not incapacitated. You and any creature of your choice within 10 feet of you, for us 30 later on, cannot be grappled or restrained, as well as ignore penalties on movement or attacks while underwater. Creatures that are already grappled or restrained when they enter the aura can spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape non-magical restraints. So this one is actually a very helpful thing, as enemies will not be able to grapple or restrain you, which, if you're like, if just the be able to have this as a free thing, never having to worry about enemies being able to grapple and restrain you, and then as this whole kind of thing is always based around you being with, underwater and kind of water-related things, no longer having, you can ignore the penalties of your movement, which, of course, there is some fairly strict kind of movement penalties while underwater, and then you always have disadvantage while underwater with attacks, other than ranged within a certain range that they can do. You no longer have to worry about these issues, so you can actually be fairly free and kind of doing whatever you want, and then immediately getting to lose the grapple or restrained condition just by moving 5 feet. As long as it's not magical, it's actually pretty effective, and probably going to come in a bit more handy than you'd actually think. Next, at 15th level, you'll gain Stormy Waters. You can call crashing waters around you as a reaction whenever a creature enters or exits your melee range. The creature takes 1d12 bludgeoning damage and must succeed on a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. So just like a nifty little thing, it is, a nice little additional thing that you can do as your attack of opportunity in a sense, or even as instead of attack of opportunity for them leaving, they can actually enter and still be affected by it, which means that you can just punish somebody for getting close to you, and you can punish somebody for leaving your area. And 1d12 bludgeoning, while not an absurd amount, the strength saving throw would be knocked prone, is actually kind of interesting, as the fact that if an enemy is trying to leave your area, they immediately use 5 feet of movement. If they fail the saving throw, then they are knocked prone, meaning that they'd have to spend half their movement, meaning that they basically have just another 5 feet on average of 30 feet. You'd have about 5-10 feet of extra movement, which means that you really didn't run away. Also, if an enemy is running towards you and they want to attack you, they waste, 25 movement speed, all 30 movement speed. You knock them prone with this ability, meaning that they can't spend their movement to get up. They'd have to use their action to get up or something, which means that them attacking you won't actually be able to happen, or they'll just have to attack you at disadvantage from being on the ground. So it actually is a somewhat nice little thing there. The extra little bit of damage is just nice, especially because, yes, your weapon would probably at this point be able to do a bit more damage if they're trying to leave your area, but when they enter it, it's a nice little perk you can get there. And then, at 20th level, you gain Mythic Swashbuckler. You learn to channel the spirits of historic sea captains to briefly become a paragon of heroic adventure. As an action, you embrace these spirits of the sea, getting the following benefits for 1 minute. Climb costs no additional movement, and you have advantage on strength athletic checks. Nice little bonus there. You probably don't want to just be using this when you have, other things you want to be doing, because, to be fair, yes, this is kind of cool in the middle of combat, probably not going to be coming up as often. If you're within 5 feet of a creature and all the creatures are within 5 feet of you, you have advantage on your attacks against that creature. So if you're a one-on-one swashbuckler against the enemy, you'll constantly be having advantage against them, as long as it is a duel, essentially. You can take the dodge action as a bonus action, so if you have nothing else to be doing as a bonus action, you can just start dodging, making it harder for the enemy to hit you, as dodge action forces disadvantage on the enemy, and actually just disadvantage on a lot of things, and makes it a lot harder to hit, which is really advantageous. And you have advantage on all dexterity ability checks and dex saving throws against effects that you can see. So, as you will be at this point, you probably aren't. I don't believe that you start with proficiency. No, you have wisdom and charisma, so you now have advantage on the athletics check. So if there's an enemy who's trying to grapple you, of course you cannot be grappled, so this one doesn't really do anything. But if somebody's maybe trying to shove you out of the way, and you can do athletics to prevent it, you have advantage. And then all dexterity ability checks and saving throws, which means that you'll be able to you'll have advantage against things like an enemy trying to knock you prone, because that also sometimes could be a acrobatics check. Also against fireball spell and a lot of other spells that force dexterity saving throws. And then of course dexterity ability checks. So if you do want to use this outside of combat, which this one probably want to be doing more of an in-combat thing, but you can do it outside of combat to be getting your dexterity ability checks, and your strength ability checks will be at advantage. And then this will last for 1 minute, and then you can get it back at a long rest. So this is a fairly, this part right here, pretty good. Mainly these three. This one probably won't happen as often, but these three are especially helpful. Uh, this one is kind of nice as a 15th level ability, just kind of that little like drop in the bucket. Here's a neat little thing that you can gain as another little thing. Your aura is actually probably a bit more helpful than you'd really think. Now, it's not getting rid of any conditions, like it won't protect you from charmed or frightened or cause charm or frightened or anything like that, but not being able to be grappled or restrained, and then you can ignore underwater things. If you're in a water-based campaign, then this one is extremely helpful. Marine Layer will come in handy a lot more often than you'd probably think, and then Fear of the Tides is just actually really helpful, as you can start shoving people around. You can start shoving people around, which, to be able to have crowd control and stuff like that, is pretty helpful. It'd probably go somewhere around right here, because it probably would go as that nice, like, it can be really good if you're in the right campaign. Like, overall, it actually is pretty good. It'll be really good in the right campaign, but at the same time, if you're playing in a campaign where water isn't exactly the most needed thing, or your team can already do the abilities that you're getting from your like Marine Layer or from your Aura of Liberation and stuff like that, then it might not seem as helpful anymore at that point. So you're definitely probably a little bit down on the S tier or on the A tier, and can easily be made, like there's easily a case to be made as a B tier as well. Next up will be the Oath of Glory, which is coming from Magic the Gathering. Your Oath spells for the Oath of Glory will be Guiding Bolt and Heroism, Enhance Ability and Magic Weapon, Haste and Protection from Energy, Compulsion and Freedom of Movement, Commune, and Flame Strike. Guiding Bolt is an amazing spell to have, because it's a decent little bit of damage as you can do at range, and then the next attack against that creature is now at advantage because of this, so pretty helpful there. Heroism is great, Enhance Ability and Magic Weapon are good, Haste, one of the best spells in the game. Freedom of Movement is nice, and then Flame Strike. You're getting some actually pretty strong spells throughout your levels, and especially because if you do dip into multiclassing and you never get all the way to like 17th or 13th level, you're getting Haste at 9th level, which, yeah, that's actually a very powerful spell to be getting at that point. Your Channel Divinities would be Peerless Athlete and Inspiring Smite, which Peerless Athlete will be that as a bonus action, you can use your Channel Divinity to augment your athleticism. For the next 10 minutes, you have advantage on athletics checks and acrobatics checks. You can carry, push, drag, and lift twice as much weight as normal, and the distance of your long and high jumps increases by 10 feet. This extra distance costs movement as normal. So it's just, a very helpful outside of combat thing if you need to be doing, anything that might be related to just pure athleticism. You'll actually a bit better in that aspect. And Inspiring Smite will allow you to, as immediately after you deal damage to a creature with your Divine Smite feature, you can use your Channel Divinity as a bonus action and distribute temporary hit points to creatures of your choice within 30 feet of you, which can include you. The total number of hit points, temporary hit points, equals 2d8 plus your level in this class, divided among the chosen creatures however you like. So at the moment it would be 3 plus 2d8. That's like an average of 13 or so hit points. So 13 hit points is actually a pretty decent bit later on, getting potentially just a guaranteed 22 to 36 hit points is pretty good. It does have to be distributed amongst creatures, so the fewer creatures that you're distributing this to, the more hit points are being given. So if you really want to, if you want to be, if just you and the Barbarian are being frontline fighters, then you could basically just give each of you like a 13 hit points temporarily as you gain. It'd be probably a bit more. It'd be, I think, 15 temporary hit points, as 30, I want to say, is the average at this point. At max level, 20. So getting 15 temporary hit points that you can just give to you and the Barbarian, kind of nice. Your aura at level 7 is the Aura of Alacrity. You emanate an aura that fills you and your companions with supernatural speed, allowing you to race across the battlefield in formation. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet. In addition, if you are incapacitated, the walking speed of an ally who starts their turn within 5 feet of you increases by 10 feet until the end of that turn. And then when you reach the aura increases to, it says to 10 feet, but it should be increases though. No, actually, yeah, it would just be increases to 10 feet. Wow, the walking speed of any ally who starts to turn within 5 feet of you. So this one is actually not going to be getting the normal benefit of increasing from 10 to 30. It's increasing 5 to 10. So a little bit down on that, and it really just increases your movement speed, which it is kind of nice to increase movement speed, and there could definitely be a nice little benefit to be getting if you're trying to travel and stuff. But at the same time, because it isn't as big as like the normal radius, they'd have to basically be touching you almost all the time, just be gaining an extra 10 feet for one turn at a time. It's alright. At 15th level, you gain Glorious Defense. You can turn defense into a sudden strike. When you or another creature within 10 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to grant a bonus to the target's AC against that attack, potentially causing it to miss. The bonus equals your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1. If the attack misses, you can make one weapon attack against the attacker as part of this reaction, provided the attacker is within your weapon's range. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier, getting them all back at a long rest. So this is kind of a nice little interesting like sentinel style thing where you can potentially cause your ally to not take damage. At this point, your charisma modifier is like 4, probably not, I don't know if you'd be going all the way up to 5 usually, but definitely 4 at this point. So you can be giving a AC bonus of 4, so you know this can really help in that aspect to protect them against lower end attacks. And then if you are able to block the attack completely, then you get to also make an attack against them. So you can block for an ally and get to attack an enemy, giving, you know, basically protecting an ally and attacking as in the same little reaction, benefit as you prevent damage for your team and cause damage on the enemy team. So nifty little thing. Of course, you know, make sure that you are actually within range. And also, it's not saying anything like you need to have a shield or anything, as some other things have. They'll say, oh, you need to have a shield in order to do this. So you actually could just have a 10-foot weapon block, and then the enemy can still be within 10 feet of you because you have a reach weapon. So this one, you know, kind of has that more, rather than the shield and one-handed weapon, you're probably going to be using a two-handed long weapon. So this can really help in that aspect. Although, it still isn't going to be the most sought-after thing, but it is a nice little bonus to be getting. And at 20th level, you gain Living Legend. You empower yourself with legends, whether true or exaggerated, of your great deeds. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. You are blessed with an otherworldly presence, gaining advantage on all charisma checks. Once on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack and miss, you can cause that attack to hit instead. Just not giving yourself advantage on the attack, you just make it hit. So, and lastly, if you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to reroll it. You must use a new roll though, and you can't use this again until you finish a long rest, or unless you expend a 5th level spell slot to use it again. So this one gains the benefit of being able to use it multiple times in a day, just by using 5th level spells, which, you know, you're gonna be, you know, to be able to gain all of these things for a 5th level spell slot. Actually might be worth it, to be honest, because you know, this one isn't as overpowered as some of the other ones that you can only use once a day, but this one also isn't so weak that, you know, only being able to use it once a day just makes it even worse. So being able to gain, you know, you can do this in, like, outside of combat and inside of combat for the charisma check stuff, and then your inside of combat for these ones right here, actually extremely useful to be able to do there. So definitely a nice little added benefit that you get to do this if you want to spend a 5th level spell slot. Of course, you know, this one, you know, this doesn't really save it. You know, this one just is a nice little bonus here that you get to do this. And this part is extremely powerful. There's some other things that allow you to do this anyways. I mean, if you can just take the lucky feat, in all honesty. This is kind of nice, but of course, you might have somebody else who would just be better at being that. This one is helpful, but probably not as helpful as you might actually think. Your aura is a little lacking, in all honesty, especially because it never becomes 30 feet. Peerless Athlete probably isn't going to be used as often or like seen as that strong. And then the Inspiring Smite, it's good. The only issue is that, you know, there's other ways to be doing this, and after a while, if you're not rolling too well with your 2d8, or if you're just straight up wanting to give this to a whole lot of people, this isn't going to be super good. Like, if you're doing this just solely on yourself, like you're rolling like a 30 total, 10 from here and then level 20, so you're getting 30 temporary hit points on yourself is extremely good, especially with a health of 200, so getting an extra 30 health can survive, a higher level spell, or a mid-tier spell, and then some other, like, attacks. But to be honest, it's alright. It's just some things could have made it a little bit better. So it's definitely, like, on the mid-tier of B, to where some things should have been improved, or could have been improved a bit more, to make this on the tier that some of the other ones are. So, but still, it actually is a fairly viable thing, especially with Guiding Bolt, Heroism, Haste. Later on, if you go all the way main to Flame Strike, definitely some pretty strong stuff there. Next would be the Watchers, I believe, right? Yep, no Watchers here. And the Watchers, as their Oath spells, will grant you Alarm and Detect Magic, Moonbeam and See Invisibility, Counter Spell and Non-Detection, Aura of Purity and Banishment, and Hold Monster and Scrying. Alarm, actually kind of underrated, although I don't think that this will be letting you allow to cast this as a ritual spell, so not going to be as good. Detect Magic is nice. Once again, probably can't cast it as a ritual spell, though. Moonbeam is actually really good, and so is See Invisibility. Counter Spell, I mean, it's Counter Spell. I'll go over it at some point when I'm starting to go over, like, my top 10 or top 5 of each level spell. It'll probably start with cantrips and go on until level 9 at some point. Banishment is extremely good. Hold Monster is nice. Definitely some fairly beneficial spells you can get there. Your two channel divinities will be Watcher's Will and Abjure the Extraplanar. Watcher's Will allows you to use your channel divinity to invest your presence with the warding power of your faith. As an action, you can choose a number of creatures you can see within 30 feet of you, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. I believe this is the first time that we've actually seen this, other than the limited times that you can use per thing with the one that we just went over, Oath of Glorious little protection ability at 15th level. I believe this is the first time that you've been limited to how many creatures you can give this to. It's not just however many you want. And this will allow you to, for 1 minute, you and those chosen creatures, so you are separate from these. So you're always going to be gaining this benefit, and then you can choose up to an additional number of creatures. You are not counted in this, I believe. You and those chosen creatures have advantage on intelligence, wisdom saving throws, and charisma saving throws. Extremely powerful. As for 1 minute, which will usually be about one fight, you basically can pop this at the start of the fight, maybe like a turn or two into the fight, and then, at this point you have 3 charisma, basically, meaning that you can give 3 creatures advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, which are basically always what a spell will be causing, other than dexterity saving throws. So getting advantage on those, really good, and especially going to be really good later on, because definitely a lot of higher tier spells will be wanting you to do wisdom and charisma. Intelligence, actually there are a few intelligence ones now that Tasha's Guide to Everything is out, so definitely some fairly beneficial things there. Next is Abjure the Extraplanar. You can choose your channel divinity to castigate other unworldly beings. As an action, you present your holy symbol in each aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend within 30 feet of you that can hear you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is turned for 1 minute or until it takes damage. A turned creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly end its move in a space within 30 feet of you. For its action, it can only use the dash action or try to escape something that is preventing it from moving. If there's nowhere left to move, then it must take the dodge action. So, actually a really good thing, as a bit more later on, you'll definitely be seeing a lot more aberration, celestial, elemental, fiend, and fey. It isn't just fiend and fey, or just fiend and undead. This is also including aberrations, elemental, celestial, which you're going to be probably seeing a fairly decent bit of elementals appearing, depending on your campaign, aberrations and celestials, or if you're traveling to areas, from actual, extra planes and stuff, and you're actually just straight up interacting with these all the time. This ability will come up fairly often, I would say. Your aura at level 7 is Aura of the Sentinel. You emanate an aura of alertness while you aren't incapacitated. When you and any creature of your choice within 10 feet of you roll initiative, you all gain a bonus to initiative equal to your proficiency bonus. This increases to 30 feet, which means that right off the bat, at 7th level, I believe you'll have a 3 proficiency bonus. Everybody within 10 feet of you when you start combat will be gaining an extra 3. An extra 3 on top of what they're rolling, and you're always gaining this ability. And by the end of this, they're gaining an extra 6. So they'll be able to roll their proficiency, roll their d20, add whatever their initiative is, and then on top of that, add even more. So, and then 18th level, this becomes 30 feet, which means that your allies no longer have to be clumped together with you to be getting this benefit. You'll have a pretty large area of 30 feet just for all your allies to be gaining an additional, at that point you'll have a 6. I believe a 6 proficiency bonus. So you'll be giving your whole team plus 6 to their initiative rolls, which means more likely than not your guys are going first. And then next, at 15th level, you gain Vigilant Rebuke. You'll learn how to chastise anyone who dares wield beguilements? Beguilements, I think? I'm not an English major, so don't quote me on how to pronounce things. Against you and your wards. Whenever you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you succeeds on intelligence, wisdom, or saving throw, which, of course, you have an ability, a channel divinity that'll grant advantage on those, you can use your reaction to deal 2d8 plus your charisma modifier force damage to the creature that forced the saving throw. So, you can give your allies advantage on these saving throws, and of course they might already have some decent areas for those naturally from being spellcasters and whatnot, and then you can just subjugate the enemy to 2d8 plus a charisma modifier. At this point your charisma modifier is probably a +4, so 2d8 plus 4, an average of 14 damage on the enemy, solely because they try to make it to where your allies cause this. So as long as you guys are succeeding, which happens hopefully often enough, you can be getting some little bit of chip damage here and there, especially as a 30-foot radius. And lastly, your 20th level capstone ability is Mortal Bulwark. You manifest a spark of divine power in defense of the mortal realms. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. You gain True Sight with a range of 120 feet. That's incredible, as True Sight allows a lot of things, actually. You have advantage on attack rolls against aberrations, celestials, elemental, fae, and fiends. So, you are a very, mortal plane. Anything that is not from your plane of existence is your enemy in this case. You're not like I am against the undead and the fiends, I am against those of pure, kind of mischief and chaos type of things. You are just, if you are not from this mortal plane, I'm a lot better against you guys. And when you hit a creature with an attack roll and deal damage to it, you can also force it to make a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the creature is magically banished to its native plane of existence if it's not currently there. On a successful save, the creature can't be banished by this feature for 24 hours. Once you use this bonus action, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest, or use a 5th level spell slot. So just a nice little thing that some of the later ones, the later editions of the Paladin got, or the you can spend a 5th level spell slot to get it back. Gaining True Sight of 120 feet, extremely good actually. You have advantage on attack rolls against a fairly decent amount of things that are later on that you'll be fighting, especially with Fae and Fiends. A lot of times, if you're not facing a dragon, your BBEG, your big bad evil guy, will be a fiend of some kind, demons and devils and whatnot. Fae are a lot of times some big enemies you can fight. Elementals later on, especially as things that can summon. Celestials are pretty, higher level enemies. Aberrations, they'll come up a bit, often, but, not as often as you might think compared to the other ones. And then this ability to, if you are on your plane of existence, you can just banish them. If the enemy fails their charisma saving throw, you basically just use the banishment spell. So, and this also isn't a once per turn, if I'm not mistaken. When you hit a creature with an attack roll and deal damage, you can force it to make a charisma saving throw. So as long as it isn't the same creature, you can just do this as, you can only have 2 attacks on the turn, but you're getting 2 attacks, which means that if you hit the first creature and banish it back to its native plane, and then hit a second creature and banish that one back to its mortal plane, its native plane, you can actually just clear out a lot of things just by sort of banishing them from this world. So, yeah, actually extremely effective. So you are a very, like, if your campaign is all about, phase and fiends and elementals, slashers, and all that type of things of not of the mortal realms, you're extremely good. As you know, this one is helping you out there. Uh, this one is actually just helping you out with what you already can do and helps you kind of protect your allies a bit as you kind of watch over and are a sentinel. This one allowing you to gain add to initiative, letting your team go first more often. I mean, any way you can increase initiative is extremely good. And then after the extra planar, more things to go against things from other planes, and Watcher's Will to gain advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Very good. Your spells are fairly decent. Moonbeam, See Invisibility, Counterspell, Banishment, Old Monster. Some pretty good things. All in all, a pretty actually good setup that you can be doing if this is what you want to do. And definitely would be like upper S tier, so I probably would move Ancients down at this point, because it would definitely be a upper S tier or upper A tier. I wouldn't quite put it into S tier solely because, if you're not in a campaign where most of where like you're fighting fiends and stuff more often, if you're more of things on the mortal realm, you're like your final enemy, you big bad evil guy is like a dragon, just a classic dragon. Well, their dragons on average are from the mortal planes, so you're not going to be getting all the great stuff there, and a lot of their attacks, especially if like a red dragon or something, or a blue dragon, something that's making you do constitution or dex saving throws, poison as well from green dragons and stuff. You're not gaining the advantage like all your special things to do with your saving throws, like with intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So you're not given the benefit for Dex and Constitution, which are also just as common as those ones, if not more common, depending on what you're fighting. But if you do end up fighting things from other planes, you're the Paladin that really would want to be fighting. So that does it for this one. Let me double check real quick before I just wrap this up and I accidentally forgot somebody. Just went over these three: Oath of Conquest, Redemption, Vengeance, Devotion. Conquest, Devotion, Redemption, Vengeance, and the Ancients is also here, and then the Crown no longer exists, and the Oathbreaker. So, that is it then. That is the Paladin subclasses. Either later today or tomorrow will be the Paladin and overhaul, looking at the entirety of the Paladin as itself and not what you're getting from the subclasses. Be looking forward to that either later today or tomorrow. If you guys did enjoy this video, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you guys did enjoy so that I can continue doing it to continue making the videos as well as I have been. If you guys didn't like the video, then go ahead and dislike it and comment down below what you guys didn't like so that I can improve upon it to make the videos better for y'all. If you guys want to know when I upload, then the best way to know is by subscribing. But that does it for this video. Until next time, bye guys.